It's time for another episode of the Joshcast. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. Nope. Bad Shakespeare. Don't need to do it with an accent. That's what I was taught. You don't need to do it with an accent. I can speak the words in my own voice, and it will sound fine. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. That's my real voice, by the way. I know a lot. It may come as a shock to a lot of you, but this voice I'm putting on right now, this is an affectation. My real voice is like this. Oh my God. Anxiety. I had a dream that I was playing the lead role in Hamlet today, and it was the night before, and I had only memorized the one or two monologues. And it occurred to me, I was like, you know what? I should probably rehearse all the lines, not just the two monologues. And then I started to panic and think, oh, maybe we should just cancel the show. No, we can't do that. I've already committed to doing it. So I'm frantically looking for a complete works of William Shakespeare so I can learn all of Hamlet in a night. Which is really, you know, I think my brain always needs something to worry about. So it just invents these situations that are not even really necessarily life or death, but just incredibly stressful. The other nightmare I used to have was I'm back in high school, and within the context of the dream, I know that I've already graduated college and I don't need to be there, but I've decided to go back just for a refresher, and yet I haven't studied, and now I'm panicking that I'm not going to be able to pass the test, and yet I know that it doesn't matter. And yet I'm still panicking that I'm not going to pass the test. There's a lot of layers here. A lot of layers of insanity on this one. First of all, I don't think the school system would just let me go back again. Like, no, why? But somehow they let me. I think the other thing that's freaky in the dream is that even though I've graduated college, now that this is just dawning on me right now, even though I've graduated college, in the context of the dream, I'm still I still look and am high school age. So now it's turning into some kind of Freaky Friday thing. Car in front of me is a van that belongs to the Premier Meat Company. This is not an endorsement for the Premier Meat Company. I'm not familiar with their products, or at least not intimately familiar with their products. I could have had some of their meat at a restaurant recently. I don't know. But the I in Premier is a knife, which makes sense in the context of meat, but does also seem a bit serial killerish. But is this even what I want to talk about in this podcast today? Have I even covered the essential issues? Here's one that I find fascinating. California is easing up on the lockdowns, and one of the provisions is that people are allowed to protest, but they can only protest at 25% capacity of the area in which they are protesting. Now, the substance of the majority of the protests that I've heard about recently, Well, that's not true now because I think they're protesting the police brutality. But before that, a lot of the protests had to do with keeping the economy closed. And I feel like the people who are protesting the lockdown are not the people who are going to adhere to the rules of the lockdown. That would be my first guess. Second question, what if I want to protest only being able to protest at 25% capacity? I would need at least 50%. Can we negotiate this? Yes, we can. That's what I've learned about the lockdown procedures. It's all something that can be negotiated, and I think has more to do with money than anything else. Oh, look at me, delving into political commentary. Here's the thing about political commentary that I find hilarious. I'm listening to, 2 or 3 podcasts, and there's the liberal podcast and the conservative podcast. And they each have their criticism of the opposite, and the criticism sounds exactly the same of the opposite. They're taking away our freedom. They're taking away our freedom. And I'm beginning to think, there is no opposite here. It's all one big evil. But the one thing I think that the Star Wars universe is missing is podcasts. There's no characters or podcasting in the world of Star Wars. And I think we need to... The closest thing we had were the two-headed aliens who were sportscasting during the pod racing scene. But there's not the more intimate podcasts where someone is saying, I think Vader's getting a bad rap, man. A lot of people have been criticizing his policies and the Emperor's policies, and they're just saying, well, they're taking away our freedoms, they're taking away our rights. Well, I think it's 180 degrees. I think we had no rights before they came in. I'll tell you something about the iron hand of fear. Taxes have never been lower. Well, I failed, everyone. I had sugar again yesterday. The irony is that I got very sick to my stomach on the day that I stopped eating sugar at all and really, 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 really tried to eat healthy, except for some yogurt-covered raisins. So actually, now that I think about it, I never really quit sugar. Processed white sugar is a harsh mistress. New and used office furniture. Yeah, how much for that iron throne over there that's made of all the swords? $50. Who had it before me? One of the kings of Westeros. Oh, what happened? They modernized. They wanted something that was more ergonomic. Yeah, I'm looking to redecorate my office, and I like this. I'm thinking this iron throne will be good. How do you get it out of the room though? It seems like it's wider than most doors. Yeah, you're gonna have to take out part of the wall and also conquer your realm. Really? That sounds incredibly difficult. That's true. Political gamesmanship, intrigue, double-crossing. Oh, no, not that. No, I'm fine with that. No, I've conquered my realm. What's your realm? My realm? Oh, it's Cerritos. I conquered it last week. It really didn't take that much. Just me and a couple of guys. We conquered Cerritos. In fact, most of the people at Cerritos aren't particularly bothered by it. And when I say conquer it, I mean we just kind of took over the website. But it's universally agreed we have conquered Cerritos. Anyway, the point is trying to figure out how to get this throne into my office. It's a home office, and my apartment's tiny. But I really like this throne. How will it handle outdoors? Is it going to rust? Yeah, it's probably going to rust. I don't think any of these swords are stainless steel. And I like the blood on them, and I'm worried the rain is going to wash that away. And that would be a shame. I don't think I can make this happen. I'm going to need to conquer the website of at least Burbank and Glendale before I can feel comfortable shouldering this burden. Yeah, I'm going to have to pass. I'm wearing a mask as I'm doing this podcast. I hope people can understand what I am saying. I imagine Bane has had a lot of problems with that. Libertarianism. But I gotta say, though, I'm just really not a fan of how anyone in the government is handling anything right now. And maybe I am not being fair. If I were in their shoes, I don't think I could do as good of a job. And perhaps it was better that we locked down than we didn't lock down in the long run. I don't know. Only time will tell. But I do think that it's not healthy for human beings to be sequestered like this. And I don't think psychologically it can last. So the big question is, how do we reopen as safely as possible? And I think the answer to that question has been in front of us the entire time. With song! Laughing and singing, that actually spreads the virus. Joy spreads the virus. You can't have any joy. What if joy literally was what spread the virus, and happiness, and only depressed people could go out? We've discovered that the virus is spread by joy and happiness and smiles. As a result, all takeout and delivery services have been taken over by the Goths. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the new President of the United States, Wednesday from the Addams Family. I like that premise. And I can't tell, podcast listeners, if I am happier now than I was before, or if everyone else is as depressed as I was, and what was depressed for me is now the new social norm. It is hard to tell, my friends. It is hard to tell. But I feel a million times better. Really. I actually do feel a million times better. I think that it took being in this and being so thrown out of, well, I was, I don't know. I didn't really go out much. I didn't do much. My life hasn't really changed. It's more to do the stress of the uncertainty of not knowing what the future is. The uncertainty of my future. Which, by the way, the future is always uncertain. The illusion is that it was certain. And now I see that is always an illusion. I could get hit by a asteroid tomorrow. It has nothing to do with anything. And boom, that's the end. driving by a place that sells pet lizards. Lizard's an interesting creature. Can't tell what they're feeling. I mean, at times you can. When an alligator's attacking, I'm pretty sure I know what the emotion is. I could be wrong. Maybe for alligators, it's not aggression. Maybe for alligators, it's that's when they're at their calmest. Randall, you need to calm down and go eat an antelope. Yes, but what are animals feeling and thinking? That's the question. Hard to tell with a cat, too. Although cat owners probably get the idea. But are cats ever happy? They don't have the ability to smile. Then again, humans can smile, and I think 99% of us are faking it. Only depressed people and cats may venture out during this virus that attacks people's sense of joy. Dogs must stay inside. I feel like the witch's familiar is always a cat, which makes sense. Dark, stealthy, mysterious. A cat is a good familiar for a witch. Very good familiar. Golden retriever, horrible familiar. What are we doing? What are we doing? We doing evil? We doing evil? Tell me about the evil we're doing. I'm so excited to be evil. I also think the gibbon would be a terrible familiar. Just the high-pitched shrieking is just not... Yes, it's high-pitched shrieking, so, the banshees might enjoy it for a second, but beyond that, it's a little too positive. It's like having an opera singer as a familiar. Where are we going to go? Who are we going to kill? Can familiars be other people? Can a familiar be Sally Johnson, the student activities director at Crested Butte High School? Well, I was just minding my own business, really. I just was filing some papers that had to do with some of my students. They were about to go on a tour of Washington, D.C. and see all the sights. And then I discovered apparently I'm connected with a witch. And when the witch wants to cast a spell, I find myself compelled to go to her side, and she uses my essence to help her cast the spell. Now, at first, I was concerned about the arrangement, but by and large, her schedule doesn't really conflict with my work schedule. Mostly, we do things at night. Very often afterwards, we'll go to Buffalo Wild Wings and just hang out for a bit, and it's actually become quite a nice little friendship. I never thought being a familiar would be this fulfilling. Well, that's the end of that podcast.